everybody, and welcome back to coverage of the 2016 World Championship. I'm Gabby Sparks, joined today by Ian Duke, and our main match is going to be Kazuyuki Takamura. There you see him on the left side, Pro Tour champion this year. He will be facing off against Steve Rubin, also Pro Tour champion this year.
That's right. We got some pretty cool decks here.
Are ready, so let's get underway. So the players are going to be playing Jund Delirium versus Blue-Green Crush. And Blue-Green Crush, Ian, this is a pretty interesting one. Why didn't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, this is an awesome deck. Just definitely one of the most innovative here this weekend. It's kind of a ramp deck. You're seeking to kind of ramp up your mana as quickly as you can, eventually get to the point where you're casting Crush of Tentacles, as well as Part the Water Veil, kind of as your big finishers in the end game. And Steve Rubin's take on this deck, we've seen some similar decks pop up at the Grand Prix over the past couple weeks, but Steve's take on this deck is actually especially innovative, and we'll get to that in just a minute.
So both players off to a pretty good start here. Kazuyuki with that Sylvan Advocate, and Steve Rubin also with a mana ramp that he wants in the form of Mrs. Pilgrimage.
So meanwhile, Kazuyuki Takamura is playing the Jund Delirium deck that you just heard Matei and Rich talking about here. This is kind of a mid-range, like traditional Jund-style deck, but it's leaning on the Emerge synergies to have a really powerful mid-game with cards like Kozilek's Return and Distended Mindbender.
Looks like that Sylvan Advocate getting in there for 2, dropping Steve down to 18. He's going to follow up with the Tireless Tracker. Going to see a land from Steve. Explosive Vegetation. So now that he's continuing to do ramp over the last couple turns, Ian, what do you think he's trying to do? Seems like he's off to the kind of start he wants, right?
This is exactly the start that Steve wants here. He just wants to be ramping. It's not a deck that really cares about interacting with the board in the early turns. All he wants to do is just get more lands on the battlefield, because ultimately his end game is going to be casting Crush of Tentacles and returning everything back to Kazuyuki Takamura's hand. So normally this start from Takamura with a Sylvan Advocate and a Tireless Tracker is going to mean early pressure plus card advantage going into late game, which would be scary for a lot of decks. But I think Steve's deck is actually pretty well equipped to battle against a start like this.
It does look like Rubin in his hand only has a Sylvan Advocate and a Nissa Vastwood Seer, so none of the big payoffs quite yet.
That's definitely true. He's going to be looking for some key cards, but he does have the Nissa, which he'll be able to transform on his following turn and look for even more cards, or else defend himself with a 4/4 token.
Over on the other side, it seems like Takamura with a lot of fiery impulses and not exactly a lot of creatures to use them on.
That's a great point, Gabby, and that's one of the advantages of playing a deck like Steve's, where you're not reliant on early creatures. You just strand all of these creature removal spells in your opponent's hand. So even though Takamura is gaining card advantage with the Tireless Tracker, he's actually losing it by kind of having this, we call it virtual card disadvantage, where he has these cards that he can't cast.
The big attack does drop Steve down at 12. We're going to see a Nissa coming down for Steve, getting a forest out of his deck. There we see Nissa Vastwood Seer over on the right.
So fetching up this land is going to allow Steve to transform his Nissa this very same turn, and then he has the option either to +1 and draw an extra card, or to minus and make a 4/4 token to defend himself with a little bit.
This being the first creature that was played, we'll see the Fiery Impulse, though. Down goes that Nissa with a trigger on the stack. But a nice follow-up of Sylvan Advocate for Steve Rubin.
And Steve actually picked up a really nice card with his last draw step, which is a copy of Part the Water Veil. So pretty soon he's going to be able to start doing some big things with taking extra turns and awakening some lands.
Alright, looks like 1 mana Fiery Impulse. 2 of them to take down the Sylvan Advocate, which is large currently. And that Evolving Wilds is going to provide Takamura with a clue. A second one now as well. So some card advantage, nice card advantage being generated here by Takamura. At least those Fiery Impulses were able to take something down eventually.
Yeah,
they were very much dead in his hand.
And this is actually quite a bit of pressure here coming out from Takamura. The Tireless Tracker and Sylvan Advocate both, this Advocate not growing yet, but the Tireless Tracker growing a couple times from sacrificing some clues. And this is lethal represented on board next turn if Kazuyuki Takamura can find a 6th land for his Sylvan Advocate. In the meantime, Steve Rubin here, looking at his options, he does have that Part the Water Veil that I mentioned last turn.
Here we see his options. He does have a lot of lands in hand, unfortunately, but then Nissa's Renewal and Park the Waterville can buy him quite a bit of time.
Yeah, the life gain from Nissa's Renewal actually very, very relevant here.
It looks like that is also the option he's considering casting this turn.
Careful.
Guess it's still on.
And I think if I'm Steve here, I do like firing off the Nissa's Renewal before going for a Park the Waterville. Just getting the extra lands on the battlefield will allow him more flexibility in what he does with the following turn and the turn after that. But it looks like he does go with the Park the Waterville here.
He is going with the Park the Waterville. That was 6/6 land in play. Park the Waterville exiles himself, but he gets to take an extra turn. There we see Park the Waterville. When you are able to awaken, you also get that 6/6 land. Looks like he is firing off that Nissa's Renewal this turn.
Oh yeah, I recorded it.
So allows him to search up some lands as well as gaining some life. And what Steve's really looking for here, the best card he could draw, I think, would be pieces of the puzzle, which I mentioned before, Gabby, this is a little bit of an unusual version of the Blue-Green Crush deck. Some of the other versions I've seen use cards like Oath of Jace and Oath of Nissa because you can rebuy them with Crush Attackers, but Steve's opted for a version